Welcome to Gifts in Strange Wrapping Paper, a podcast where we explore the transformative power of life's unexpected challenges. I'm your host, Kelly Goetz, an intuitive educator and leadership coach. My journey into holistic practices began after our stillbirth of our second son in 2007, a profoundly devastating experience that I now lovingly refer to as a gift in strange wrapping paper. This pivotal moment revealed my life's purpose to teach and empower others to heal with grace, love, and gratitude, and to live their best lives now. Join me as we delve into the stories of resilience, healing, and personal growth, uncovering the hidden gifts within life's most challenging times. Today, I want to talk about the difference between having a belief or knowing something. When you have a belief about something and you haven't had a true experience, it's like having knowledge that you don't quite know what to do with. So often we're reading a lot of different books, or people are trying to learn about holistic practices, and they can read it and they can understand it on some level. They have the intellectual understanding. They know the information's out there, but they don't quite know what to do with it. Now you have an experience and you can't quite articulate what it was. And if you've never heard anyone talking about that experience before, like for example, I was driving to work one day in my 20s, and I hadn't really heard many people having sort of intuitive experience. I just remember on that particular day, something had happened the week prior where I was completely devastated emotionally, and I literally saw my dreams go up in smoke. And on that particular day, as I'm driving to work, I had an experience where something beyond me was reaching down and holding my hand. It was so profound as I'm watching my hands on the steering wheel. Noticing physically, I'm feeling and experiencing my hand is not actually, the energy of my hand is not actually on the steering wheel. It's actually reaching up and somebody else is holding my hand. Now, did I see a physical hand? I did not. Did I feel an actual presence or hand holding my hand to give me reassurance as I went into the office that day? 100% with everything in my being. I felt it so extremely strong. And it was so strong that my brain could not process why it felt like my hand was reaching up, holding another person's hand while I'm driving. At the same time, my eyes are looking at the steering wheel, and I'm seeing what appears to be my physical hand on the steering wheel. All I knew was that experience in that moment in time. It was like something beyond me was pouring into me, giving me a sense of certainty, giving me a sense of love, giving me a sense of safety as I was about to cross the threshold and go into work. I experienced that 2 days in a row. It was profound. It was powerful. I didn't quite know intellectually what to make of it. And even to this day, I couldn't say from a matter of fact, this is what that meant. What I can say is that because I am kinesthetic, meaning I feel energy, because of that, when I was having this experience of somebody holding my hand, it was very real. I could see it. I just knew it was there. It gave me peace. It gave me certainty. It made me feel safe. Now, when we have experiences where our intuition steps in and we have this sense of knowing, or we have a physical sensation in our body saying that there's some sort of danger, or we get some sort of language in our ears, or for me, oftentimes I get repetitive statements that have nothing to do with me or my ideas or my thoughts. I simply know in that moment in time, I'm meant to share it with whoever I'm with. And the reason I know it, I have to share it is because it's not coming from me. It's not my original thought or idea. And yet it's like somebody is pushing me on the shoulder saying, speak up, say it, share it with this person that you're standing in front of. What I usually find, if it comes to me in a set of 3, I can't ignore it any longer. The only way I'm going to get to go back to my business and carry on is if I actually share it. And oftentimes they say, I have no idea what this means. This just keeps coming. Let me tell you what I'm getting. And I just share it. It's really not up for me to understand or to know what it means for the other person. Every once in a while, it means nothing. More often than not, they connect the dots for themselves and it means something. It doesn't really matter to me whether it means something to them or not. They might hear that information and they might simply say, I can't connect to that. Sometimes a couple days later, suddenly they have an awareness of what that meant for them. Now, coming back to the concept of beliefs versus knowing. When you believe something, any other person with a stronger belief on that same subject can come to you and share their ideas and their beliefs. And if their beliefs about a situation or circumstance is stronger than your beliefs, you can be quickly molded to change your ideas, your opinions, your thoughts. It's one of the fascinating things about politics, which I don't enjoy, is that if you don't understand something, it's very easy to be molded or shifted on a thought or an idea. This is true for any subject you have. If it's just a belief and it's not a true knowing, then you can adapt quickly to what somebody else's ideas are. Now, coming back to my experience, because it was so profound and so strong, I can remember that moment in every detail of that moment. It was so profound and powerful to me that while I didn't share it with too many people at the time, in fact, I can't think of anyone that I shared it with. It has stayed close to my heart. It has remained in my memory as if it just happened yesterday. I now have an understanding of how fascinating our intuition can be and how fascinating our connection to whatever you want to call it. To me, I call it God. You might call it something else. Universal force. For me, I feel like there is this beautiful veil between us, our higher self, God. I think there's this omnipresence that's always with us. You might not see it that way. You might not believe that there's something bigger than you. Because of my experiences, I can't help believe that there's not something bigger that we are all connected to. And because of everything I've learned along my journey through studying different holistic practices like the Lifeline technique, like the Eden method, like Reiki, like forgiveness work, Chinese face reading, all the different things that I've studied, the more I have studied and understood things intellectually and combined it to what I was experiencing experientially and emotionally, bringing those two pieces of information together, I now have a complete knowing. I know it in my heart. I have certain experiences that I've gone through and that I've witnessed with my clients that nobody can take away from me. Someone else might not believe in those experiences, and yet I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, those things were real and they happened, that my client or I had that. Once you understand that your goal is to shift out of just believing, whether it's believing in limiting beliefs or believing in something that seems to be positive moving forward, beliefs about yourself, and shifting it to a sense of knowing, a knowing of who you are, a knowing of what you experience, of knowing what that wisdom is within you, those things that have become a knowing for me and for you, nobody can take away. Another person's stronger opinion or ideas cannot shift it. Now, as a recovering people pleaser, and many of you are people pleasers on some level, but as a recovering people pleaser, I think we kind of learn it as we're growing up. We want to please our parents as little kids. They say yes, we get excited. They say no, not so much. We're not that excited, right? I remember raising our young kids and the disappointment when they didn't get their way. Even as young adults, the disappointment of not getting their way. And that part of me that really wants to please them, wants to make them happy. And sometimes I just can't do it. I can't make them happy. I can't say yes to everything. As an individual growing up, many of us struggle with that people pleasing. I've seen a lot of it in women, but I do believe that it's in men too. That desire that we have to produce, we have to perform. I didn't understand really early on why I could be so easily manipulated by other people's ideas and thoughts. And the reality was, because I was a people pleaser and I wanted to please, and sometimes I didn't have all the information because maybe it just didn't interest me. It didn't interest me, so I may not have had all the information, nor did I have the desire to perhaps research the information to the level that they seem to know the information. So it was easy to cause me to doubt myself, question myself. So I want you to think about a subject that you've been through where you kind of are developing some beliefs and some ideas around it. And then somebody else with a stronger opinion steps into your world and they start sharing their ideas on that same subject. It could be something as simple as a work process in your office. And I remember many times seeing some of the processes that we worked with early on in my first job, thinking, why are we doing it this way? This doesn't make sense. This isn't efficient. This isn't helpful. This is useful. And wanting to make a change or improve something with that process, only to discover that many others had tried and the powers that be had said, nope, this is how we're going to do it. They were just set on, this is how it works, this is what we do, and this is how it's going to be. My belief that something needed to change was quickly swooped under the rug, and I was told to be quiet and to let it go. Now, the only thing that could have changed that, so let's say my belief that something needed to change actually was taken to heart, and we actually made some of those changes. Then we would have had a new process. And in that new process, we would have had a new experience. And in that new experience, we would have determined, wow, did that really make things smoother, easier, better? We'll never know. I'll never know. The reason we'll never know is because we didn't take the steps necessary to make change. Therefore, we didn't have a new experience. The only experience we had was the experience we had already encountered. And we continue to repeat that same pattern. Everything becomes about patterns. So coming back to this concept of beliefs versus knowing, when you have the opportunity, and I'm going to use that work situation, when you have the opportunity to learn something, have a belief about it, and then get to make change and have an experience of that change, or you have your intuitive sense that gives you, a little gut reaction to something, and you do something different with that gut reaction occurring, and you actually act differently, make change differently because you listened to that gut instinct, or you spoke out that thought or idea to your friend, family member, or whomever, and you shared the idea, and suddenly, even though you were uncomfortable sharing whatever that intuitive hit was, and you said and did it differently, that person standing in front of you, where you are quietly just thinking, oh, they're going to think I'm nuts. They're going to think I'm wacky. And suddenly they say, oh my gosh. You know what that means to me? And they tell you and they affirm that information. Not only do they affirm what they heard from you, but you have affirmed them because on some level, they were looking for confirmation they were on the right path. When you have that kind of experience where you've shared your intuitive hits and they respond in a way that says, thank you, even if they don't completely have it all put together, you now not only have a belief that your intuition's talking to you all the time, however it comes through to you or whoever you feel has given you those gifts and those abilities. And now you have the experience of actually stepping into it. I will never forget working with somebody's energy. And as I was working with their energy and I was helping bring energy from the earth into their feet and up through their body, all of a sudden I saw bubbles, lots of bubbles. And I was like, what are all these bubbles about? Now, at the time, I didn't necessarily feel completely confident in my intuition. I believed we all had it. I believe that when we are connected individuals working side by side or in relationship with another, I believe that it's happening all the time. Then we have a physical sensation, emotional sensation, or some sort of idea that comes through our hearing, our taste, our sense of knowing. That is happening all the time, whether we pay attention to it or not. It's there. So now here I am, and I'm supporting this beautiful woman in bringing the energy up through her feet. She wasn't grounded. She wasn't sucking in the natural energy of the earth. And suddenly I see bubbles and I'm sitting there and I'm like, don't say anything. Don't say anything. She's going to think you are nuts. So I'm not saying anything. Somebody asked me the other day, how do you just know or have those things come up? And I said, because on this day, when I was brand spanking new to trusting my intuition, it hit me 3 times. There's those bubbles. There's those bubbles. Tell her about the bubbles. Tell her about the bubbles. So finally, I took the magic cue of 3s because I like things that come in 3. And I said, okay, I just need to tell you, I'm seeing all these bubbles moving up your body. It looks like bubbles. Your energy is like all these little bubbles are moving up your body. And then I got really quiet. I wanted to take it back. I didn't want to share that with her because had I shared it with her and not shared it with her, she would have never known. I saw bubbles. It means nothing. And so now I'm doubting myself in the moment. I'm just sitting there quiet. She's quiet. I'm quiet. There's no dialogue happening. And I'm thinking, ooh, maybe she thinks I'm silly. Maybe she thinks I'm goofy. What is she thinking? When really it had nothing to do with me. The silence had nothing to do with me and everything to do with her connecting the dots. Finally, she speaks out and she says, finally, wow, it's funny you would say that. Finally, I'm painting a picture. And in my painting, I'm painting bubbles moving up. And she starts describing the picture that she's painting with all these bubbles. And we both went, wow, finally, that's pretty cool. Finally, those bubbles of how I was seeing her energy moving up her body were the same bubbles she was painting. Finally, I found that fascinating. Finally, okay, that wasn't so bad. I shared that intuitive thought. Didn't come from me, came from something bigger than me. It just came through me. I was just the messenger. I didn't even know what it meant until she affirmed it meant something to her. And to this day, I still don't know much more about what it meant for her. I simply know that my job was to be the messenger. We get to put a little feather in my cap. Because I went from the belief that I'm seeing bubbles to shifting and sharing what I'm seeing, what I'm experiencing with another person who ultimately validated that experience I was having with her own experience. And now I can say, was it a belief that I saw bubbles? Well, it started off that way. Do I know I saw bubbles now? Absolutely. I'm no longer doubting that because I had the experience of seeing it, sharing it, having somebody else see it, share it, witness it. Together, we witnessed it, and it became part of our knowing. It actually made me a little stronger to share with the next person and the next person. Whether you're praying for someone and you get those subtle messages from something bigger than you, oftentimes you won't know. I call it the nudge. You might be sitting in a chair and you get the nudge to speak up or share in a group setting. And sometimes you'll sit and you'll ignore that nudge. When you actually don't ignore the nudge and you share what's being nudged or what's being spoken through you, when you actually share it, though, you get an opportunity to have a collective experience with somebody else. To me, it doesn't matter if my intuition is right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm okay being wrong because it's not about me. If it's not information that somebody else needs, provided that it's never harmful, I would never share anything that could be harmful. And thankfully, I don't get that kind of information. But if it's not harmful to someone else and you share it and it doesn't resonate for them, then great. They can simply take it as a little bit of feedback, and it's their choice to discern that feedback and say, yes, that's for me, or no, it's not. Either way, it doesn't matter. I'm not here to be right or wrong. I'm here to do my job. My job is to simply trust the process, trust the relationship and the connection, and allow that information, if it wants to be spoken and shared, and then let it go. Except for here, where I'm sharing a little bit with you. So this whole concept about believing something and knowing something. Let's think about our schooling. Oftentimes, we are in school and we're learning about math and reading and history and all sorts of things. And because of the nature of schooling, oftentimes we're not in a practical situation where we're actually taking all that information that we're learning and applying it to a job or applying it to something in our life. So we have all this wisdom and knowledge that we've garnished and we've gained through our many years of schooling. And then we step into that working environment. And quickly we discern what can we use in that working environment to make us successful, to make us perform at a certain level. This is when that experience starts to come into play. Because while we had experiences of whether or not we got the A on the test or the B on the test, or we got the problems right or not, it isn't until we actually get to take all that information that we've learned about English and writing and math and history and everything else, science, art, and we start applying it to real life circumstances. But now we get to repeat applying it to real life circumstance. And those things that we once believed that we knew now truly become a sense of knowing. Because we're putting it into action. We're putting it into a state of creating real results in real time. When you take action on them, that is when they transform into some other type of energy. And you get to see what are the results of that. You get to learn, did it work? Did it not work? How did it make you feel? How did it make other people feel? Was it successful? Was it not successful? And now you have a whole new set of experience through a very experiential process. And from there, you can tune in and say, I know that worked. I know it didn't work. That's why it's so important that when we are choosing to speak up or share a relationship with someone else, and in that relationship, maybe the communication isn't going so well. And you say, okay, let's look at my outcome of having a nice, smooth, easy relationship. And you look at that and say, okay, if I try this communication style, does it meet the other person's needs and my needs? And does it improve the communication? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But you now have new data that you can say, well, that didn't quite work. Let me shift it this way. And you do it again. And then you shift again. Until you get to a place where you find that communication style that flows and works for the relationship you're in, whether it's a friend, a coworker, an intimate relationship, a partner, a child. Every time you pivot and make subtle changes, you are creating new data, new experience that ultimately is going to lead you to a sense of knowing. Where you now know how to communicate in a particular relationship. And oh, guess what? Just because you got it down with this person, it may look completely different with the next person. Because each individual is so unique. Recognizing that our goal is to have a sense of knowing, true knowing. No obstacle can get in the way. No one else's beliefs or ideas can get in your way. In fact, if you have a dream or a goal that you're meant to pursue, you don't need to share it with the naysayers. If it's something for you to accomplish or achieve that is powerful and strong, it will pull you towards it, just like a magnet. So trusting when you get that intuitive knowledge that you're being nudged to move forward and take action on something, that's for you. To find a way, it does not mean you will not have obstacles. When you take steps forward and you face obstacles, it will continue to pull you towards it. Even though there might be a moment in time that you felt discouraged. So I implore you, do not take my word for it. Take a look at places that you had a belief, whether it was going to a particular college or studying a certain degree or taking a particular job, where you had a belief or an idea of what those things were going to give you. Then you had the experience of it, and then you came to that sense of knowing. This worked for me. It didn't work for me. This made me happy. It didn't make me happy. This brought me and my life joy. This brought me and my life pressure. Whatever it is, it's all beautiful information. So I implore you to test your beliefs, especially around your intuition. I implore you to slow down long enough that you can tune in and hear what is being spoken in your body. When you're in a situation or circumstance and your body feels uncomfortable, notice where it feels uncomfortable. What is the message your body is trying to tell you? When you listen to your body's energy and your body's reaction to something or someone, and you trust it. When we don't listen to the way our body is talking to us, and we just charge forward and we ignore it, 9 times out of 10, that stomach ache will get greater, the headache will get greater. Whatever that physical sensation is will get bigger, stronger. Might even have you trip and fall, to keep you from going the wrong direction. You have wisdom coming through you every single day. Slow down long enough to pay attention to it. And when you pay attention to it, choose. Do I want to test this experience I'm having right now by collecting more data? Getting that intellectual. Well, let me just try. If I go right instead of left because that's what my body's guiding me to do or my car is guiding me to do, let's just see where that takes me. What information will we learn here? When you start paying attention to the different ways that your body is trying to move you forward, your energy being, your higher self is trying to move you forward, pay attention and start trusting it, even if you trust it without being certain, even if you're laughing at it while you're trusting at it. And you do it anyway. Not only are you going to have a lot more intellectual information of what that means, particularly for you, you will also have the experience of how it shaped and changed your life. Find ways to test your beliefs, whether they are the limiting beliefs that keep you from moving forward. Find a step and move forward anyway. Test it. Test that limiting belief. You will find out that you are not your limiting beliefs. They're just beliefs. Either they came from somebody else or they came from another situation. You don't have to own limiting beliefs. You can test them and see where you land. And if it's a positive idea or a positive belief of something you are meant to create or do, in those places, take a step towards it. And as you take a step forward, notice what is the experience you're having with that information. Is it energizing you? Is it filling you up? Is it de-energizing you? How will you know? Well, if it's filling you up, you're going to feel a sense of space in your body. You're going to feel a sense of joy in your body. You're going to feel lighter. You're going to feel freer. And if it's something that you're not meant to do, you might feel a sense of constriction. You might actually see your shoulders curling down. You might actually see that you're walking slower. You might feel a heaviness if it's not something you're meant to do. The only way you get to find out if beliefs are real for you or not is you got to test them by taking a step towards them or taking a step away from them. Remember, once you know beyond a shadow of doubt that something is right for you, it will not matter what your parents say, what your friends say, provided it's not hurting anyone else, because anything that hurts somebody else isn't really intuition. Because intuition doesn't lead to hurting somebody else. It might lead to you speaking up or showing up differently, but it will not lead to hurting anybody else. Because every single moment in time, we want to be in a state for the highest good for yourself and the highest good of all. Take a step forward and see what you discover. Because when you know, and no one can take it away from you. Have a great day.